Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kol niyeh b'dvarei. Amen. Okay, so b'siyata d'shmaya we jump back in to Likutei Moharan, Torah Zayin, Be'ezras Hashem. And today's shir is sponsored by zechus Yitzchak Gedalia ben Ilanit and Ilanit bat Miriam Yossi Meyer and Yossi Meyer as a zechus for Yosef Ben Rivka and family. Also sponsored by Zev Klein Le'ilui Nishmas, his parents Rivka Barinnel bas Simcha and Ya'akov ben Yisha'yahu. The neshamas should have an aliyah, and our learning should be a zechus for all of these names. Be'ezras Hashem, b'soich shar, everybody else in Klal Yisrael that needs a zechus, needs a Yeshua. And a very good morning to everybody and welcome to our shir as we carry on this incredible journey. Befrat, in particular, this Torah that we are looking at today, which we began yesterday, Torah Zayin, the 27th lesson in Likutei Moharan. And the reason why this is a particularly powerful lesson is because, like we said yesterday, I think that this lesson really captures a lot of the zeitgeist, a lot of the spirit of our time, a lot of the conflicts that are taking place internally, externally, and I think in light of extremely current events, what just happened yesterday evening or afternoon, is something that's of utmost importance, and we're going to speak about that a little bit as we head into this teaching. So let's go back to the beginning just to do some review. Begin Lashon Rabbeinu Zichrono Livracha Torah Zayin is Rebbe Nachman's own words, and he says, "Ritzitza demayis b'viyusei." A chick that dies while it's in the egg. Heicha nafik rucha. How does the soul get out? Amar lahu Rabbi Shua Chanani answered them, B'hainu da'al, the same way that it got in. Now, the Rebbe will explain this at the end of the Torah based on the revelations of this particular lesson. And the tzaddik says like this: in order to draw the entire world to Hashem's service, to serve the infinite, to serve it as one group. And just to speak to the comment made at the very end of the shir, Mendy, the Rebbe doesn't say, hanging out and waiting for that time period to come. That there's an active drawing. That's the point of this whole teaching, right? Is ki limshach es kol ha'olam la'avedasai, and I'm not aware of another teaching in any sefer that has the same sentiment. It's different. To draw the whole world, not simply to daven, but that this should be an ideal. La'avdei Shechem echad, to serve Hashem as one unit. V'kulam yashlicha l'dei kaspam zahavam, and that everybody should cast off their gods of silver and gold. V'yispadlu al Hashem yisbarach levad, and serve only Hashem. Zeh hadavar nasa b'chol dar v'dar l'fi hashalom shabadar. This inyan happens in every generation in accordance with the peace in that generation. Because when there is peace between people, then they're able to sit and they're able to explain to one another the truth. And again, this is not in a linear sense. It's not this one, pedantically putting the truth on someone else. It's a dialogue. And in dialogue, the truth is clarified, because the truth is always going to be a composite of two elements. Through this process, each person, kol ish, will cast off their god of silver, or their god of of gold, and will draw themselves close to the emes. And we spent time yesterday speaking about peace in this sense, in the context of human dignity. And the ability for people to be able to sit with each other and talk. And ultimately, we said that it's undergirded by humility. It's undergirded by a basic realization of not knowing anything at all, in an ultimate sense. Yearning to get rid of the koyach hamedame, which causes us to think that we know something at all. and to rise into the seichel where we might actually know some things, but the way that we know them is different than when we're in our reactive tribal state. We want to get to know the world, at least as clearly as we can. But we don't want to see the world through the reactive lens, in the context of Torah Hey, of our koach hamedame, which is the way that most of us end up seeing the world. We want to rise up as much as we can into the seichel. And in order to do that, we have to be holding human dignity and the possibility of multiple narratives of reality and other people's experience front and center, as a like an unbreachable red line. And this is perhaps what Rebbe Nachman means when he says, "Umasbirin zeh zeh ha'emes," because when there's peace, when there's love, when there's genuine respect on both sides for each other, then in an ideal world, right, sans the possibility of getting killed by that other side and coming, in proximity. We spoke about the clash of civilizations being the result of two civilizations for the first time in history, really coming into contact one with the other in an incredibly visceral way. But instead of that, where we're able to sit and we're able on both sides to recognize the humanity of the other and validate their experience, and the key point is, even though we disagree, and we might even disagree on facts, that's the key point, but we're still able to recognize that even though I don't believe what they believe, but they believe it, and if they believe it, that comes along with an experience, and that experience comes along with feelings, and those feelings come along with next set of actions. And all the while that I'm incapable of seeing that because I don't believe they're facts, then I can't be empathetic. Then I can't, and this is required on both sides, as difficult as that is, to contemplate it, to comprehend. But if there's shalom sheyesh b'nei adam, then him chaykrum umasbirim zelazah emes. Then they're able to express to one another not necessarily the theological truth, but just the human truth. The human truth, the lowercase t, not the uppercase t, the lowercase t. Their own narratives, one to the other. And in the process, I think in the process of humanity growing up and recognizing that this is the way that it is for all people, then we're sickened by our narratives, all of us, and we cast them away. What do we learn about the gods, the idols of silver and the idols of gold? Do you remember in Torah Hey? How did we look at them? In what context? We spoke about them as reflecting the midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which are primarily the midas of what? Chesed and Geulah. Chesed and Geulah. Chesed and Geulah are the archetype for everything that we would consider in this world right or left. Chesed is the ultimate right, Geulah is the ultimate left. And in a certain sense, if you can read between the lines of what the Rebbe is saying, it is possible that the Rebbe is saying you need to throw away the left and the right. In other words, you need to throw away extremism. The issue with what went on yesterday with Charlie Kirk is not the left. It's a mistake. The issue is extremism. There is extremism on the left. There is extremism on the right. To me, that's the story. And that's different. That's very, very different, because the koach hamedame wants to jump on Facebook as those violent, vicious leftists. They're destroying the country. You're just like them. You might not pull out a gun and shoot somebody in the neck yet. But that's the kind of thinking, that's the kind of tribal feeling that eventually results in violence one way or another. So what it means to cast off the sheker alidei kaspa v'alidei zahavai is not to be tribal. It means I don't identify fully with anything, because anything is already only a chelik of the emes. What do I identify with? With HaKadosh Baruch Hu. With its Hashem Elokeichem, of this broken world that He created, where people feel so angry and so and so inferior that they feel the need to latch on to whatever fragment of the truth and to devote their whole life to it. Ad kedei mesiras nefesh. This was mesiras nefesh. It was an act. You might not like it. You might think it's barbaric and cruel. I believe all those same things. I was sickened by what happened yesterday. But it was an act of mesiras nefesh on the part of a person who literally thinks he's killing Hitler's mouthpiece. That's the way they think. You have to understand that. You think they're wrong. I also think they're wrong. But this is the way that they think. So what is wrong? The way that they think, or this that people can think in those terms? I believe the issue is that people can think in those terms. What the reaction will be on the right, I'm afraid. I don't know. But it's not impossible that somebody on the extreme right would try to take out somebody on the left. Like, it's not. We have to be careful what we identify ourselves with. I'm not on any bandwidth. I'm not, because this is all medame. It's all medame. What's the emes? Umekarves atzmai. Right? V'yispadlu el Hashem yisbarach levad. The emes is tiferes. The emes is humility, which comes, like we learned in a previous Torah, these two things are in symbiosis, which comes from incredible confidence. The confidence of being willing to stand alone. Which, in addition to confidence, is also courage. It takes a lot of courage to be confident in that way. It takes courage to withstand the pain of being willing to do that, because it's painful. Because it's an opiate. The finding of an ideology that you can swallow hook, line, and sinker, it's an opiate. Because it gives you a lens to see the world through. And it gives you a confirmation bias to filter all information through. And anything that doesn't fit gets left out. Anything that fits confirms what you already believe. And you live in a very safe world, very beautiful world. Very hateful world, usually. A very divided world of us versus them. You find a scapegoat for everything. It takes a lot of courage to be confident and disassociate and unidentify. And identify first and foremost as a human being, and then with the tradition or the narrative or your belief and to believe that strongly. Again, this is Devarim. I want to say what we're learning today and yesterday is Devarim ha'ayimdim beruma shalaylam. Lav kol mayach savalda. Not every person is able to grasp what I'm saying. What I'm sharing now has come after years and years of work in my own personal life on these things. Almost constant. It's a journey. Not everybody could really grasp what I'm saying. I'm not sure I grasp it fully, but I think it's emes, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. It's Devarim ha'ayimdim beruma shalaylam, because I believe that Mashiach depends on this. I don't think Mashiach will come from the left or the right. But I believe in the narrative that I have. There's just a part of me that identifies more essentially with something that I consider to be even more primary, which is my humanity, and that's first. Because categorically, that's what I share with a larger category of existence. And so that's my primary categorization. Then within the subset of existence called humanity, I'm a Jew. I'm a Jewish human. And it comes along with everything I believe that it comes along with. Mamlachas Kanvagad Kadosh and values but the same way that they need to be completed by me, I need to be completed by the world. And it's a difficult thing to be alive. It's not easy. Adam la'amal yulad. This world was not supposed to be easy. It's a tremendous struggle. But if you're seeking Yudke Vavke, if you're seeking the middle, which is the infinite, not at sad, not at one side or the other side, really seeking the truth, so then there's a joy that underlies that, even though it comes along with a lot of pain and a lot of loneliness more than anything. I'm very lonely. So the Hadras Panim. Says the Rebbe, the way to get to Shalom, the way to magnify this element of universal respect and dignity and care is through two things: Ha'aras Panim and Hadras Panim. Ha'aras Panim means the illumination of the face. Hadras Panim, as we're going to see, means the illumination of the beard. Hadras Panim is the beard. Ha'aras Panim is the face. Okay, we're going to get into what that is in a minute. But Vizeh, says the Rebbe, how do I know that in order to get to Shalom, which is going to bring the whole world back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to throw away one ism or another ism and just to come together finally, how do I know that one is going to lead to the next? It's a pasuk. Says the pasuk in Bereshis Lamed Gimel, Vayava Ya'akov Shalem. When you have the Bechina of Ya'akov, which is the Bechina of Ha'aras Panim, as we're going to see, so then Shalem, then you have Shalem. Ir, Shchem. And then Ir, which means Isirusa, Hisairus, it wakes up the inyan of Shchem. Now, Shchem was a city. But in this context, Rebbe Nachman says it's a reference to the pasuk in Tzfanya that refers to one day, which I hope will be very soon, and not a day we have to simply sit around and wait for, but a day that we could bring if we embody those messianic traits. That's the whole inyan of the Baal Shem Tov. That's limshoich kala oilo, not to sit back. We have agency. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us reality. Hashemayim shemayim Hashem va'aretz nasan livnei adam. Hayoim im b'koilai tishmo. Mashiach, I'm coming today, but it's on you. We're not sitting around and waiting for Mashiach, not making calculations. When is he going to come? I need to bring him. I need to bring him in my life. I need to bring Mashiach. I need to do everything that I can to bring the consciousness of Mashiach that I hope to see spread throughout the entire world. And I need to see to it that in my own personal life, I'm doing everything that I can to embody that. In the Koilei Tishmo. And then call me Sheyesh by day, Akilu Nivna Beis HaMikdash B'yamav, like we've said now millions of times. Then in my own life, I'm already redeemed. I can see through the sheker, but we need everybody else also. Every other yid first, because we're the Mamlechas Kana V'Goy Kadosh, and the Mamela, we're going to have Hashpah on everybody else. Because I don't believe you can hate a nation whose whole raison d'etre, whose whole purpose in being is to service everybody else. I don't think you can hate such a nation. An iconoclastic, triumphal, superior, that you can hate. But if we were known by the world as the one people who literally identifies as being there to care about everyone else, and we could get out of our reactive, exilic 2,000 years of trauma bubble, and we could be big. And if every rabbi would be like Rabbi Yaakov Nagen, who sent out a video yesterday and it's posted to his status, I saw it, I'm happy to share it, where he's offering a prayer, he's in a talis and tefillin, he's saying Shir Alamalos for the people of Punjab in India who had a catastrophic flood. And he's sending the video out to them and saying, I want you to know there's a rabbi in Jerusalem who's praying for you. Imagine if all of our Rabbanim took 2 minutes and made a video, and the whole internet was flooded with Orthodox rabbis praying for the world. In that moment, he was a kohen. I don't know if he's a kohen, but in that moment, he was a kohen. Why didn't I screenshot that and post that on my status? Because Klein's off the rails. Because people are so distant from even being able to conceive of the fact that I should care that someone in India is in pain. They'll think I'm off the derech. They probably already do. And the more that I speak this way, the worse it gets for me. And that's why it's a delicate balance, because I want to stay at least somewhat close enough to be able to have an impact. But on the other hand, I have to say my truth. So, but he's right. Now let me ask you a question. How many Orthodox rabbis do you think there are in this world? Thousands, right? How many Orthodox rabbis do you think took a video, or even didn't take a video, or blinked when they read the news, if they read the news, that a catastrophe is happening to a significant portion of humanity? How many? I'll give you the answer, okay? 0. One, because Rebbe Nachman has made this his life's work, because he's about tshuva, and he comes from a different society and a different culture, and he's brought in a lot of those energies into Yiddishkeit. But when I'm looking at his video, I'm thinking to myself, what would the world look like if this was what the world knew Jews for? If this is what we were known for? I don't think you can hate such a people. I don't think it's possible to hate someone whose whole existence is to love and to care for you. Vayava Yaakov Shalem Ir Shechem. Iserusa Shabachinas La'avdei Shechem Echad. And then you bring the whole world close. You love people, you'll bring them close to Torah. Can't bring people close to Torah if you don't love them. Cannot bring la'avdei shechem echad if you don't love every human being in the world. If you don't see the divine image in every single human being in the world, it doesn't matter what color, what creed, what background, what religion. These are all garments. It's like a bunch of ants walking around, and this one's wearing what do they call it? Arab thing, a keffiyeh, and one of those wearing, a French beret, and it's ridiculous, silly, bunch of ants. These things don't matter. These things are different garments we put on ourselves. But there's a human underneath. And that human happens to be in the tselem of Yudke Vavke. And underneath all of the learned, acquired traits that people develop as they grow up is a little child. And in Hendon Park, my child is playing with the Arab child like there's no conflict anywhere in the world. You know why? Because they're pure from heaven. And they don't see the differences that we see. And they don't have the biases that we have. And I'm speaking on both sides. I'm not talking about us toward that. I'm talking about them toward us. All across the board. Children will heal this world when we have the humility as adults to learn from them, instead of thinking the whole time they should learn from us. Because we've messed this world up terribly. So why should they learn anything from us? They should learn, we have the answers. We've destroyed this planet in millions of ways. Maybe it's time to look at souls that are pure from heaven and to see how they are. Because in children you see a little bit of a glimmer of what the world might one day be. Iserusa shala'avda shchem echad hu al yidei bechina hu al yidei shalom. Says the Heilige Rebbe, this is through peace. V'shalom al yidei bechinas Yaakov, and shalom comes from Yaakov. Shua aras panim bechinas shufar di Yaakov kein shufar da Adam. Because the beauty of Yaakov is the recognition that the beauty of Yaakov is actually the beauty of all humans, is actually the beauty of Adam. And we graduate when we realize that everything that we say that's beautiful about Am Yisrael is in some way true about every human. And even though there's a distinction, and in Tanya this distinction is particularly sharp, although it's been modified throughout the generations and still needs a little bit more work, it has to be understood properly. But the truth is, Chaviv Adam shenever b'tzelem. that every single human being is precious. That every single human being, irrespective of what they think or believe, these are the outside of them. They're precious and they're holy. So the shufra de Yaakov is ke'ein shufra de Adam. What Yaakov Avinu is supposed to represent as a Yid is just an idealized reflection of what all of humanity was supposed to look like and will one day look like, if we have anything to do about it. How do you bring the goodness out of someone? Said Rebbe Nachman, Torah SheBaal Peh, find the good in them, believe in the goodness in them. Not going to bring the world back to Hashem by finding the evil in them and the bad in them. It's by refusing to believe that bad is bad. No matter how many people tell you you're naive, you're blind to the reality. Maybe I see a deeper reality. Maybe I believe that in forcing myself to see the deeper reality, in some sense we can extract it and bring it out to the surface. Maybe this is the radical teaching of Rabbeinu HaKadosh. It's to find the good and oyev es habriyos u'mekarvan laTorah. Be careful, they'll kill you. It's worth it. Because if I don't do this, they'll definitely kill me. That's the feeling. Because in my mind, this is the only route. There is no other way. There is no other way. Because you can't bomb out an ideology. Because violence breeds violence. I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in it. Just like I don't believe in it between a couple. I don't believe that a relationship can be mended when things have devolved to a point where they're hitting each other. It's childish. So what are you supposed to do? I don't know. But just because I don't know, it doesn't mean that every other alternative or any other alternative is 100% correct. And this is why it's painful for me. Because in a certain sense, our victories are also failures. Because every time we need to bomb another building, it awakens the realization that we failed doing this in other ways. So I don't think that we should dance. This is not the Yiddishkeit I know. I know the psukim, trust me, by Avodah Hashem, Rina, and so all this stuff. I know. I could also give you other mamarchim. I'm telling you what I feel in my neshama. And I said in the very beginning of the war that if we win the war but we lose what it means to be Rachamim b'Shanim Goyim lechasadim, then we lose the war. Even if we win, we lose. Because we've allowed them to turn us into them. I said that on October 11th. What's the challenge? The challenge is that unless you're willing to come up with another way, malasot. It's kill or be killed. And this is essentially what Shimon and Levi say to Yaakov Avinu when Dinah is taken. In a situation that is not unlike what we're facing today. There are captives. They're like, what are you supposed to do? Oh, I know. And Yaakov Avinu says, what are you guys doing? You're destroying my reputation in the whole region, the whole world. And Shimon and Levi says, they should turn our sister into a prostitute. They should rape and get away with it. What are you suggesting? And it's one of the least conclusive passages in the Torah. A fascinating thing. That's how it ends. Yaakov doesn't agree. Yaakov doesn't disagree. There's silence. In that silence, I hear a tension, a conflict. In that silence, the Yaakov Avinu person in this state, Yaakov Avinu literally b'chvayda v'atzmai, is saying, listen guys, I get it, but I don't like it. I could understand it. I understand the feelings and the emotions and the pain and the anguish and the desire for revenge I hear it. And maybe at this stage in reality, it might even be the right thing. I don't know. But I can't put my name on that. And I don't want anybody else to put my name on that either. Because I don't like it. That's what Yaakov Avinu is telling them. And I think that today we should be conscious of that silence of Yaakov Avinu. We should be conscious of it. We should be conscious of it. I'm sorry if what I'm saying is making you feel uncomfortable. I really am. I really am sorry. Because it really shouldn't make us uncomfortable. That's why I'm sorry. I'm also sorry because I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. But I'm sorry that this has become like a controversial thing to say. Because what I'm saying shouldn't change anything per se. If the soldiers are doing what they need to do, they should continue doing what needs to be done. But without the dancing, without the celebration, what are you celebrating, Bichlal? The world is falling apart and it's my fault. And then to strategize bad bad with dealing with, in a practical sense, as I don't know anything about the military, I don't know anything about anything, I'm just sharing my own personal thoughts. Together with that should be the strategizing of how to get out of this mess. This is a mess. This is not going to go away when Hamas, every building is demolished in Gaza. It's not going to go away. It's just not. There is no day after. Now, is it because Netanyahu wants to stay in power and geopolitics? I don't know. But this is a much bigger problem. Hence, Jews all around the world are now the target, even if they disassociate with Zionism. Doesn't matter. This is a major issue. This is a Klal Yisrael issue. It's not an Israel issue. This is about identity. This is about what we are as a people. Strategizing to be able to figure out where has this gone wrong. And what can we do to fix it? Not to point fingers at the rest of the world and say, these are such terrible leftists who are shooting people in the face. Or rightists, by the way, because now we lost the right also. So don't be so excited. Used to be we thought in some dimion that on the right, they at least share some of our values. Give me a break. Not the Christians, not the Muslims. Give me a break. Stupidity. Ein lanu ami l'sha'ein. So I'm suggesting a shift in consciousness. Legamre acheret. A different language. A different set of responses to things like this. that don't immediately put us into the opposing category from the standpoint of reactivity, where I might not be on the extreme left, but because of something on the extreme left, I become extreme right. Neither extreme. We fight extremism everywhere, on the left and on the right. Because extremism is dimyan, koyach hamedame, always. And it arises from deep psychological need. And in a healthy, stable society, people don't need extremism. They don't need to be right when everybody else is wrong. They can show up humbly and passionately, and confidently and courageously, with a willingness to say, I don't know. But I think there's truth everywhere. And I think we're all very fragile people just trying to find our way. And I think when people are pressed, they act in crazy ways. So let's find out why they're pressed. Let's try to figure out how they feel and work with it. And do what I can personally to make the world a little bit of a brighter place. So that instead of fighting with someone on social media that disagrees with me or is calling me nasty names, I can actually reach out to that person by private message and say, hey, whoa, I'm so sorry you felt that way. Because you realize that beroige is rachim tiskar, right? They're not evil people. They're obviously hurting people. If anybody could talk that way, whatever way, to a stranger online. And instead of using words like the loonies and all these words that we put on any part of society that we consider to be so far afield from what we happen to personally believe, that we change, we grow up. And apparently growing up in this world is growing down. You become more childlike. Because the more you grow up like an adult with sophistication, the more childish you are. Childish. Like little kids fighting in a sandbox. Like this. It's childish. Growing up means presence of mind. Growing up means the courage to look beyond the layers. And to find the nekuda pnimis. Not just in every Jew. Not even just in every human. But in every single aspect of existence. You cannot be a chassid when it comes to Jews, and then the rest of the world, you're the biggest misnagid in the world. It doesn't, it's the Baal Shem Tov, it's across the board. If you believe in godliness and goodliness, then you find it everywhere. You have to. This is why Rav Kook, to me, is the quintessential chassid. He wasn't a Zionist like people think he was a Zionist. There was no greater critic of secular Zionism than Rav Kook. And I say no greater is because he was officially in the camp and he wrote fire against the direction that it was taking. Kook wasn't a Zionist. Rav Kook believed in the essential holiness of everything. If he saw Zionism, he had to look beyond the klipa of it and to find some way that Hashkach Elyon is working within these people. Because he believed that there's Hashkach Elyon in everything. Zionism was the major development of the time, and so he believed in Zionism. In other words, he believed in the Nitzitz HaKadosh that must be within it. So Rav Kook is the courageous chassid, because everybody else learned Chassidus and spoke very high. Rav Kook put it into action. Rav Kook really believed in it. Because in the other Svarim HaKadosh we see, every Jew is so holy and pure, it doesn't matter. And then when you actually meet a Jew like that, you throw him out of the house and you will never have him for Shabbos. You spit when he walks by you on the street, and Me'esharim if he happens to be holding an iPhone or whatever. You just sat and learned Ohev Yisrael for 3 hours. Like, what in heaven's name? But they're not, because they can learn it, but they're not. Rav Kook did it. Rav Kook really did it. He went to the kibbutzim. He brought his own kosher meal and he sat with these people because he believed that there was holiness in there. And it wasn't just by Jews. Rav Kook believed in the holiness of the Chaviv Adam Sheniver B'Tselem. And this is why he's my Rebbe forever. Him and a few others. Because the attitude vis-a-vis the nations of the world, to me, is the greatest test as to how deep the philosophy of Chassidus has gone into you. Because if you only have it for Jews, and you couldn't give a darn about anyone or anything else, in my opinion, you haven't stepped on the threshold of Chassidus. I don't care, you're the biggest Rebbe in the world. You don't know what it's about. The Lubavitcher Rebbe. Big vision. Big. Rav Hillel Zeitlin. Shlomo Carlebach. In his own way, Abraham Joshua Heschel. Rav Kook. You notice something about all these people? None of them are mainstream Orthodox. These are all people on the threshold. They knew. They, in my opinion, and just my searching for years, it's a small cadre of liminal figures who knew how to be fully rooted in particularism, in our tradition, and at the same time have a heart for the whole world. And in my study and in my learning, it appears to me that Rebbe Nachman was the Rosh of this whole Mahalach. Because in his Sfarim, unlike many, if not most, if not all, of the other Sfarim of that generation, and certainly generations prior, with the exception of the Italian rabbinate in the Enlightenment period and the Renaissance period, Rebbe Nachman is speaking about the whole world. We've seen that a number of times now. It's a recurring theme. Now, it might be argued that it's a recurring theme because I'm the one teaching it, and it's a theme in my life, and so I find it everywhere. That's also dimyan. Hopefully it's with seichel. Could be. But I don't know another way to translate the words ki limshechas kol ha'olam la'avedas ela'avdei Shechem echad. I don't think that's dimyan. I don't know how to translate that otherwise. The Rebbe is speaking about the whole entire world. The kulam yashlich al yedei kaspam v'zahavam v'yispadlu l'Hashem yisbarach levad. That we should all come together to recognize our shared Creator, who isn't the Creator of the Jews, it's the Creator of heaven and earth. Bereshis bar likim es hashamayim v'es haaretz. V'zebechinas mevakshe panecha Yaakov, and this is the aspect of mevakshe panecha Yaakov, those who seek the face of Yaakov Avinu. Says the Rebbe, mevakshe, if you want to help that the whole world should be mevakesh Hashem, then panecha Yaakov, it's got to come through the face of Yaakov. That's the inyan of Hadras Panim. That's the inyan of Vayave Yaakov, that breeds to Shalom, and then Ir Shechem, and that wakes the whole world up. Says the Rebbe Nois Gimel, so how do you get there? Hadras Panim zebechinas drushay Torah. So the Rebbe had said, Ha'aras Panim, Hadras Panim. Ha'aras Panim and Hadras Panim. So the Rebbe says, Ha'aras Panim is the illumination of the face. We're going to get to that. But Hadras Panim zebechinas drushay HaTorah. These are the particularized study of Torah SheBaal Peh. Sha'Torah nidrashes b'shloish esrei midas. That the Torah is nidrash with 13 principles. What are these 13 principles? We're called, in parallel to Torah SheBaal Peh, what do we call them? Torah SheBaal Peh. Hanim shachem yud gimel tikunei dikna, which emerge in the Kabbalistic texts, in the Zohar Kadosh, from what's called the 13 rectifications of the beard. In Torah Chof, we learned about the 9 rectifications of the beard, because there are 2 layers of the Yud Gimel Midas, one Micha and one that was revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu. But the one that was revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu is the 13 Tikunei Dikna. Mebechinas Hadras Panim. And they flow forth from the aspect of a Hadras Panim. Hadras Panim is the face. Haras Panim is the face. And Hadras Panim, Bechinas Hadras Panim is the beard. K'may shekasav v'hadarta panei zaken. And you should glorify the presence of an elder. But what's zaken? Zaken is zekana Chochmah. And so panei zaken, which is zekana Chochmah, it's the inyan of Talmud Chacham, right, as Torah SheBaal Peh, is v'hadarta panei. That brings Hadras Panim. Hadras Panim is through the Yud Gimel Tikkun Dikna. What's the difference between the face and the beard? It's the difference between Torah SheBaal and Torah SheBaal Peh. What's the difference between Torah SheBaal and Torah SheBaal Peh? Torah SheBaal Peh is only for Klal Yisrael. Torah SheBaal is written down. Anybody can copy it. Anybody can read it. In fact, the Rebbe is going to reference in Yosei this that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the Moshe Rabbeinu to write down the Torah in 70 languages. Right? On that rock. That everybody should be able to draw energy from it. And the other nations have taken the Old Testament. They've taken that. They have zechus to Torah SheBaal. Torah SheBaal Peh, that's only for us. Hadras Panim is particularized. This is what it means to be a Jew. Mamleches K'ana V'Goy Kadosh. Ha'aras Panim is the face. So Yaakov Avinu, which is the particular, is the Bechin of Shufr. The Yaakov is Torah SheBaal Peh. That's the Yud Gimel Midah Shatar Nidreshes Ben. That's the beard. Ke'ein Shufr the Adam is the Ha'aras Panim. That's the face. Can't remember what culture they used to refer to the Jews as the bearded ones. Yeah, there was a culture where the Jews had a beard. I can't remember at some point in human history. The Jews are the Indian of the beard. The face, something else. What's the purpose of the Yud Gimel Midah Shatar Nidreshes? And what is the purpose of Torah SheBaal Peh? So there are 13 Midah Shatar Nidreshes Ben. But what are the other 13 Midas? There are 13 Midas of Rachamim. So Rebbe Nachman says in Likutei, you know what we mean when we're talking here about 13 Midas Shatar Nidreshes Ben, learning Drushay Torah? He says the whole point of learning Drushay Torah is to come up with eitzes as to how to serve Hashem in a way of ava and yira, in a way of love and awe, in a way of self-compassion, like we've been learning this whole time, in a way that brings you to feel compassionate toward others. By way of Klal Yisrael engaging with our own tradition in the right way, this can bring us to recognizing the Shufr da Adam. And then we can bring the whole world of the Shechem Echad. Because once we have the Bechin of Ya'akov, which is the quintessential Jew from the standpoint of the Drushay Torah, the beard, and the Yud Gimel Midas of Rachamim that we're supposed to inculcate within ourselves as a result of being discerning and making kal v'chomer and a klal u'pratu klal and a gzer shava and to learn how not to look at something on the surface, because you read the Mishnah and it's okay, I know the Mishnah. You know the Mishnah. The Gemara goes of 15 pages now. It's going to speak about you don't know anything, so you have to go into it. Not you. Everybody knows. I'm saying the person who says that they know the Mishnah. Go into the Gemara now, and you have to figure out where'd you get this from, because you read a pasuk. Every letter is nidrash. So why didn't this other Tana hold like him? He had a different drasha. He darshaned it from this word, or he needed that letter for this drush. Okay, so where did he get that drush from? He learned it from somewhere else. Where did he? Oh, he darshaned the hay. He didn't darshan the hay. Like down to the last hay, the last vav, the last. Learning Gemara is not supposed to make us more arrogant, more cruel, more. It's supposed to make us Rachmanim, because it's supposed to help us come to the realization that everything is a sugya. Everything is a sugya. And not just that the page in front of you needs to be learnt in this way, but that every person needs to be learnt in that way. Every community needs to be learnt not from afar, to make judgments. It needs to be learned. They heard one thing about a Jew once. They think they understand, what Jews are, what Judaism believes, Everybody knows is sheker v'chazav. Why? Because they're standing at a distance. How many people do I stand at a distance from? Make it more local. How many people in my own life do I stand at a distance from? I think Al Taden es Chaverecha Geulah Mekayma was speaking about what exactly? Like, when have we applied that? For real. We judge people all the time. It says don't judge. Like very straight. Al Taden es Chaverecha. You have to take action, defend yourself. Kol Maracham al Achzari as an Achzar. Again, I know all of the Mamar Chazal that get thrown into this extremely complicated soup. I know them. I wrestle with them. I grapple with them. But at least one of the Mamar Chazal that gets thrown in is also Al Tadran Chaver Chachet Geulah Mekayim. I have to figure that out too. There's a sugya there for me. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to give us troubles so we can steamroll over them and then say, ta-da! Big whoop, child. Hashem gives us problems to work on them like adults. To hear what they're telling me about myself. To figure out what's nidrash mimeni. How we can work this out with bravery and breadth. I'm yearning for a brighter world. But I don't think that we have to sit and wait for it to happen on its own. Kadosh Baruch Hu should bless us to think about these things. I know they're difficult things, they're painful things, they're not fun to think about. It's much easier to not think about them and millions of other things. But because I love you, and because I care about you, and because I love Hashem and I care about Hashem, and because I love the truth and I care about the truth, I have to share with you my true feelings. Otherwise, what kind of teacher would I be? Now, you might not like that, in which case there are many other teachers. And I don't say that to people in this room. I say that to anybody listening to me. Nobody has to listen to me. I'm trying to speak to people to whom this kind of thing resonates. And I'm telling you that from the feedback that I'm getting, it's lots of people. Because lots of people are feeling this way and nobody will ever speak this way. Only people like me who could afford it, because I don't actually have any kind of position that I can lose, anything like that. So, might not be wise for my future, but what do I care? Because what kind of future would that be if I had a position that forced me to hide what I actually believed? I don't want that. That sounds like hell, even if it's a good paycheck. L'chaim, l'chaim. Thank you for listening. Ani habe v'ata ha'av sheli שכל כך אוהב אותי האב שלי מלך חי וקיים על כל נשימה